Church, Erika Jayne has been found innocent in Illinois. But the people after her say, hold my beer, baby, because we finna refile this lawsuit in California. I got my notes. I hope y'all got yours. Let's get on into this damn mess. Y'all, it has been a minute since I talked about Erika Jayne because, baby, once the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills season wrapped, I put them and her up out my mind, okay? But when Erika Jayne Tootsie rolled back into my news feed this week, allegedly being found innocent in a lawsuit, I said, okay, let's talk about Erika as part of my new A Dashing Convo series. So let's just get started with setting a baseline of events so that we can refresh our memories from where we last left off. So the law firm Edelson PC is suing Tom Girardi and Girardi Keese for embezzling funds earmarked for Lion Air plane crash victims, including their families, widows, and orphans. So if you guys would take a walk down memory lane for me, the Lion Air crash was one of two plane crashes involving the Boeing 737 MAX, where the flight control system was putting in inputs that the pilots didn't ask for. And due to that, it created a situation where the pilots were battling against the plane, which ultimately resulted in the crashes. So Erika was named in the lawsuit because the firm claimed that Girardi was stealing the funds to support his and Erika's lifestyle. They also claimed that when she filed to divorce him, it was a sham divorce to hide assets. So we have our baseline there. Now, we learned this week that Erika Jayne was dismissed from Tom Girardi's fraud and embezzlement lawsuit in Illinois without prejudice and without cause. So let's dive into this. So to be dismissed from a lawsuit, there's two ways you can be dismissed. So you can be dismissed without prejudice and with prejudice. So let's talk about with prejudice first. When you're dismissed from a lawsuit with prejudice, it means that that is the final ruling. No one can ever come after you. That is the be all and end all. You're free to go. And, whatever ruling the court made is absolutely final. Now, when you're when you're dismissed from a lawsuit without prejudice, it means that whatever the court found, they didn't find enough to go after you in that state, right? But it means that the people coming after you can refile in another state, which is essentially what's happening here. And without cost just means that she didn't owe anything as part of this because she wasn't found guilty of anything. Now, as part of being dismissed from this case, apparently Erika Jayne decided to celebrate. Now, this was her first mistake, okay? Because if y'all will recall, part of this lawsuit and part of all the media attention surrounding Erika Jayne is that she's essentially thumbing her nose at the law, still getting on private jets, acting like this is not, acting like she's the real victim in the scenario when it should be the victims, the widows, the orphans, etc. So I understand and I can respect that, Erika Jayne is going through this in her life. So it's a very monumental thing for her. And so for her to celebrate, to post on Instagram and her story, that she's going to be moving on with her life, etc. This is, a good step forward. I understand the aspect of celebration behind it, but unfortunately, I feel that it could be viewed as a bit premature. And especially when you still have the law firm after you in the manner that they are, to me, it does nothing but add gasoline to an already burning fire, right? So sure enough, as part of Erika Jayne celebrating and all the media attention that has gone to Erika Jayne being found innocent, quote unquote, Jay Edelson, who is the founder and CEO of the Edelson PC, the place that's suing Erika, Tom, the law firm, etc., he basically says, not so fast. She's being dismissed because we're refiling this lawsuit in California to avoid any issues over jurisdiction, right? And so this happens all the time, y'all. And it's kind of misleading in the media for them to be running with the narrative that she's been found innocent because it's almost like a half truth, right? Yes, she's been found not liable for anything in the lawsuit in Illinois, but the people say that they have enough evidence to go after her in her home state of California. Now, why do people go after people in different states? Well, in order to explain this, let's just take it back to, or actually take it out of this situation and talk about the Tristan Thompson paternity case, right? So if y'all will recall, the baby mama was battling Tristan over which state essentially would preside over the case. Tristan wanted the case heard in Texas because I guess the laws in Texas are more lenient and in favor of the father. and merrily the baby mama wanted the case heard in California because the laws were more on her side there and she could get the bigger settlement. Well, the Texas judge ruled that because Marilee is a resident of California, the baby resides in California, all her business is transacted in California, that the California courts should hear the case. And that's why she ended up getting a judgment in California, and Tristan has to pay her all the money. Now, relating that back to this case, it's kind of the same premise, right? Erika Jayne lives in California. Her company, EJ Global, is headquartered in California. And so the California courts should reside here to avoid any issues in terms of jurisdiction, right? Because if they went after her full force in Illinois, she could claim that she has no ties to Illinois, and she could delay the process further by claiming that the California court should be the ones that, should actually hear the case. So to basically go around the whole issue, they say, you know what, we're just going to file this case against her in California to avoid any issues. Now, a little bit of a note here, y'all. I kind of wonder why, I understand it from the point of refiling in California to avoid jurisdiction issues, but to me, when you file a lawsuit against someone, don't you come out with guns blazing? To me, you would give all the evidence that you have up front, right, in order to convict someone on the basis of them being guilty. So to me, by them saying that they don't have enough evidence or jurisdiction support to go after it in Illinois and moving it to California, it's kind of saying that, the case may not be as strong as once initially thought. And so Edelson actually claimed that they have evidence that she benefited from Tom's Ponzi scheme, and he will continue to pursue her until the victims are made whole. So listen, on one hand, it could be a case where they don't have enough evidence to go after her in Illinois, and so it makes more sense to move to California. On the other side, it could be that they're waiting to go after her in California because that's where they want to go out guns blazing with all their evidence and to make sure that their case is a home run hitter in that sense. So I don't really know what to think, but those are my two thoughts in terms of the two possible scenarios as to why the case is being tried in California and why they didn't have enough to convict her of anything in Illinois. Furthermore, according to her lawyer, Erika Jayne's lawyer, they said her name wasn't even coming up in terms of the court documents, in terms of her having anything to do with the inner thinkings of defrauding people out of this money, of the Ponzi scheme. Her name and her company didn't even come up, right? So to me, that leads credence to what she's been saying all along, that she's just been pulled in because of circumstance. But, I think everything is too preliminary right now to make an actual ruling, and we'll continue to see what happens. Now, Erika's lawyer came out and he basically says, file all you want. He's saying this to the Edelson PC people, the people that are coming after Erika. He says that the Chicago lawsuit shows Erika and her company had nothing to do with the embezzlement, which I've already basically talked about now, y'all. If Erika wasn't named in the documents in terms of the inner workings of the Ponzi scheme and defrauding these people out of the money, then to me, it leads credence to her statement that she had nothing to do with it. Now, you guys must have also heard about this other lawsuit, because this is not the only lawsuit that Erika Jayne has been facing. But apparently, this secondary lawsuit was filed by Tom's former law and business partners, basically claiming that she's conspiring with Tom to hide assets. And she was asked to turn over $750,000 earrings that they claim allegedly was purchased with client trust money. So here's what I think here. Where it rains, it pours, right? So not only are Erika and Tom being sued by Edelson PC in connection with the Lion Air, Ponzi scheme in terms of this mismanagement of funds, but she and Tom are also being sued by Tom's former law and business partners over misappropriation of client money in general, right? So in response to the $750K lawsuit regarding the earrings and stuff like that, Erika and her team basically said, the earrings were a gift. We do not know where the money came from to purchase the earrings, as they were a gift, but we will gladly hand over the earrings as part of the trust proceedings and go from there. So we'll see what happens in that one. So it's it's good news and bad news. Good news is that she's released from Illinois. Bad news is they're going to refile in California. Good news is, I guess she's ongoing with this lawsuit regarding these, 750K earrings. At least she has them in order to provide to the court. Because sometimes when, you divorce somebody and you're trying to fund your lifestyle and go from there, the first thing that you kind of pawn or sell or auction off or try to liquidate to gain money are the jewelry, the gifts, the cars, etc. So the fact that she still had them was probably a good thing in her favor. Now, just in terms of my whole take on the situation, y'all, Erika Jayne has been guilty in the court of public opinion for a very long time, right? And that could just be a symptom of this persona that she has. People don't necessarily like, the opulence and the grand nature of her life and how she purports herself to be. And it's also hard for people to believe that she had absolutely nothing to do with her husband's Ponzi scheme. Now, my position on this has been the same from the beginning, and I will keep reiterating it. I do not believe that Erika Jayne was the mastermind of this scheme as it's being, purported that she is. But I do believe that either knowingly or unknowingly, she benefited from Tom's actions in defrauding people out of their money, right? And it's this whole notion of robbing Peter to pay Paul in terms of what Tom has done. Now, I said this in a prior video on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but a person who has a company and who takes money out of that company for personal reasons, that's not necessarily illegal, right? I used to work at a place where the owners would take money out of the company regularly, right? But in these instances, it would create a receivable on the books, right, to the actual person who took out the money. So once the person returns the money, no harm, no foul, the receivable has been satisfied, the business goes on as indicated. The problem in the Tom situation, y'all, is that he borrowed this money, and borrowed is in air quotes because he actually, took the money allegedly. He took this money with no intention of ever paying it back, which basically leads to the Ponzi scheme where you're taking money that's, earmarked for one purpose and you're diverting it for a whole nother purpose and never actually paying the money back. So that's the actual essential issue here. Now, if we're letting the legal system do what the legal system is supposed to do, y'all, technically she's innocent until proven guilty. As I said before, I don't know how the refiling in California is going to help or hurt her case. In my opinion, the fact that they couldn't come up with enough to convict her in Illinois, even if it's not a whole win for Erika Jayne, at least it seems to be a step in the right direction of proving what she's been saying all along in terms of that she didn't have anything to do with this, right? But on the other hand, perhaps they're going to come out guns blazing in California and we're going to see some evidence that they haven't presented before. So we'll see what happens. But y'all, anywho, I think that's all I really want to say on this item. So if you liked what I said, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on all social media at DatDamnDasher. And until next time, y'all, let this be a lesson to you. Hold off on celebrating until you're actually and completely vindicated. Otherwise, it's just pouring fuel on a fire. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.